Welcome to a new video. This is the video about the LanguageCert B2 level speaking module. Most of the students have asked me to make a video about the LanguageCert B2 speaking module. Therefore, I am going to make this video. But before I start the video, please like the video and subscribe my YouTube channel. Well guys, there are 4 parts of the LanguageCert B2 speaking module. And the total duration of the speaking test is only 13 minutes. Part 1 is an introduction. In this part, the examiner will ask the student about his or her name, the place where does he or she live, and the examiner will also ask some questions related to the candidate. And I will tell you that which questions and how does the examiner will ask in part 1. In part 1, the examiner will start the test like this. The examiner will announce the date of the test and the name of the candidate. After this, the examiner will introduce himself or herself with the candidate. And then the examiner will ask 2 mandatory questions from each and every candidate. And these 2 mandatory questions are, can you spell your family name? And the second question is, where are you from? So the first question is, can you spell your family name? And the student has to spell the family name. For example, if someone's name is Muhammad Amjad, then Muhammad is family name. And he will spell like that, Muhamad. And the second question is, where are you from? So the answer of this question is, I am from Lahore or I am from Islamabad. Then the examiner will say thank you, and he will say, now in part 1, I am going to ask you some questions about yourself and your ideas. And the examiner can ask the questions about topics like television, free time, family, or holidays. For example, if the examiner wants to ask the questions about the television, the questions may be, which is your favorite TV program? How much time do you spend on watching TV? At what age did you start watching TV? So these questions are quite easy, and I think that each and every student can answer the questions like that. In part 1, the students have to answer the questions by telling some reasons. For example, if the examiner asks, which is your favorite TV program, then the student can answer this question like this. My favorite TV program is Jeeto Pakistan. I watch Jeeto Pakistan because it is a very informative and entertaining program. Moving on to the part 2. In part 2, there are 2 situations. Now the students ask, what are the situations? So the situations are just like our dialogue. So it means there are 2 situations and there are 2 dialogues. The students have to listen very carefully these 2 situations. But most importantly, they have to focus on the wordings of the examiner. If the examiner uses the wording I start, it means that the examiner will start the situation or dialogue and the student has to respond. And if the examiner uses the wording you start, it means that the student has to start the dialogue and the examiner will respond, and the dialogue will continue further. Now in part 2, the examiner will say, we are going to role play 2 situations. I want you to start or respond. And the examiner will say the first situation is, and he will start the first situation. The first situation is, I am your new neighbor. I start. It means that the examiner is going to start this situation. Hello, my name is Ali. I have just moved in the next door. And then the student will have to respond. The student can say, hello, my name is Amjad. I am your neighbor. And then the student can also say, when did you move in? The examiner can respond to that, I moved in here last night. Then the candidate or the student can say, okay, fine. If you need any help, I am available. The second situation is, I am your teacher. You just arrived very late at school. You start. It means that the student has to start the dialogue and then the examiner will respond. So the student can start the dialogue like this. Sorry, sir, it is raining outside and my bus was late. Therefore, I am late today. I hope that you have understood the part 2 situational questions, and the part 2 is quite easy. You have to just focus on the situational questions and then you can respond very easily. Moving on to part 3. Part 3 is also a dialogue, but in part 3, the 2 flowcharts are also included. The title or heading of both of the flowcharts are same. One chart is for the candidate and the other chart is for the examiner. But the points or the key points are different on both of the charts. So the candidate and the examiner has to make a dialogue keeping in mind the main points of the chart. Now I am going to tell you that how the examiner will start the part 3 in LanguageCert speaking module. The examiner will say, now part 3, in this part of the test, we are going to discuss something together. We are planning to go on holiday with friends. Let's talk what kind of holiday we want and make some decisions. Here are some ideas. Then the candidate will take his chart and the examiner will also take his chart and the discussion will start. For example, the heading of both of the charts is holiday plans, and the chart which is in the examiner hands, the examiner will say, I am thinking to go on holidays in the first 2 weeks of August. And the candidate will respond, no, I am planning to go on holidays in June because in June I am free. So you can say that the candidate has to deny with the examiner in part 3. So it means that on both charts, the heading is same, but the points about which the candidate and the examiner has to discuss, they are different. So the candidate has to discuss according to the points which are written on his chart, and the examiner will say according to the points of his or her chart. Moving on to part 4. In part 4, the examiner will give a topic to the student and the student has to discuss about that topic, or the student has to speak about that topic for 2 minutes, and he has 30 minutes to make some notes or for thinking. The examiner will hand over a paper and pencil to make some notes for the topic. Those points will help the candidate while speaking for 2 minutes. and then the examiner will also ask some follow-up questions about that particular topic. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and if you want to ask any question about the LanguageCert or IELTS test, please comment in the comment box and I will make the next video according to